Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're heading to Kenya to unpack a really shocking story where a massive family empire built on a whole lot of wealth became the backdrop for an unbelievable plot of greed, betrayal, and, well, a father's ultimate sin.
I mean, it's a question that's almost impossible to wrap your head around, right? This case from Nyeri, Kenya forces us to ask it. And to find the answer, we have to peel back the layers of a really dark mix of motives that were festering behind the gates of a billionaire's estate.
Yeah, this is the story of a man named Stephen Wang'ondu. He built an empire from the ground up, but his pride, and as we'll find out, his financial desperation, pushed him to arrange the brutal murder of his youngest and supposedly favorite son.
Okay, so to really get how this all went so wrong, we have to first understand the key players, a father, a son, and the massive fortune that was sitting right between them.
And when we say empire, we really mean it. Stephen Wang'ondu was a self-made tycoon in Nyeri County, and he had his hands in everything. This wasn't just cash in a bank. This was real, tangible power. We're talking a massive 100-acre farm with its own dam, a stone quarry, a bunch of petrol stations, shops, buildings, a fortune worth billions of Kenyan shillings.
Now, the relationship between this father and son, well, it was complicated. Daniel wasn't just the baby of the family and the favorite. He was kind of a mirror image of his father's own ambition. He was managing family businesses while also starting his own ventures. They even lived on the same estate, so their lives and their money were completely tangled up together.
But as you can probably guess, this seemingly unbreakable father-son bond was about to completely and violently shatter. And believe it or not, it all kicked off because of a fight between a husband and wife.
So, here's how fast things went south. In late 2020, Daniel and his wife, Frida, have a big argument. But instead of staying out of it, the father, Stephen Wang'ondu, steps in and takes his daughter-in-law's side. And he doesn't just offer her a place to stay for the night, he moves her into a house on the family estate permanently, and even starts making plans to fund a new business for her. For Daniel, this was just the ultimate betrayal. He felt like his own father had stolen his wife, and that tension just exploded into a huge public fight.
And this wasn't some private family drama, you know? It all spilled out into the open. Daniel, feeling totally betrayed, actually physically attacked his father at one of the family-owned petrol stations. Now for a proud, powerful patriarch like Stephen Wang'ondu, this public humiliation was the absolute final straw. That was the moment he decided his son needed to be punished.
So, feeling like his authority had been challenged and his name had been shamed in public, the billionaire turned to his most trusted employee, his driver James Mahinda, and set in motion this incredibly cold-blooded plot for revenge.
And the plan, it was disturbingly efficient. You had Wang'ondu at the top, the mastermind, giving the order. His driver, Mahinda, he was the fixer. Mahinda then reached out to a friend, who in turn connected him with two guys, Eddie Karuki and Raphael Wachira, who were just desperate for work and apparently willing to kill.
And what was the price for his own son's life? 160,000 Kenyan shillings. To put that in perspective, that's about $1,200 US. Just think about that. A billionaire, and that's the price he puts on his favorite son's head. It's just shocking.
But get this, the greed and betrayal, it just trickled all the way down the chain. The driver, James Mahinda, decided he deserved his own cut. So he skimmed 60,000 shillings right off the top for himself and told the hitman the job only paid 100,000. Unbelievable.
So on the night of New Year's Eve, while everyone else is celebrating, Daniel is just heading home from a party. And these two hired killers, they're lying in wait in the dark. As Daniel gets out of his car to open his gate, they jump him, beat him with a metal rod, and stab him over and over again.
It was a horribly brutal attack. But when investigators got to the scene, something was immediately off. It clearly wasn't a robbery. Daniel's phone, his wallet, everything was still on him. It didn't take them long to figure out this wasn't random at all. This was a hit. And from there, the whole plot started to unravel pretty quickly.
You know how these things go. There's almost always a weak link. And in this case, it was the driver, James Mahinda. As soon as the police had him in custody, he just broke. He sang like a canary, laying out the entire conspiracy and pointing the finger directly at his boss. His confession led police straight to everyone involved, including the 75-year-old patriarch himself.
But as the police dug deeper, They started to realize this wasn't just about a family feud or public humiliation. No, this was about money. Turns out, Wang'ondu's massive empire was actually in financial trouble, and they discovered he'd taken out life insurance policies on a bunch of family members and employees. Here's the kicker. Just days after his son's funeral, he filed a claim. And that's when this whole thing gets even darker, because it made investigators look back at the death of another one of his sons, who drowned back in 1995, a death that also resulted in a big insurance payout for Wang'ondu.
But here is the final, almost unbelievable twist in this story. The mastermind, the father who started this whole nightmare, he would never actually see the inside of a courtroom for it.
Because while he was locked up waiting for his trial, Stephen Wang'ondu got sick with COVID-19. He passed away in a hospital just 5 months after his son's murder, taking the full truth of his motives with him to the grave.
So with the mastermind gone, what happened to everyone else? Well, the justice system did catch up with them. The driver, the one who arranged the hit, he turned state witness and got a pretty light sentence for it. The 2 hitmen, though, they both pleaded guilty and got sentenced to 25 and 30 years in prison.
You know, in the end, this whole case is just such a dark and cautionary tale. A billion-shilling empire did nothing to protect this family from its own patriarch. It's a haunting reminder that when pride, greed, and betrayal are allowed to take root, the ultimate price isn't paid in money, it's paid in blood.